What if I told you that the greatest truth humanity has tried to forget for thousands of years is pulsing beneath your feet right now? What if I told you that the Earth isn't just a dead rock floating through space, but a living, breathing, conscious entity with its own soul? But deep down, you've always felt this, haven't you? When you walk barefoot on grass and feel that electric connection. When you stand before an ancient tree and sense something watching you back. When you witness a sunrise and your entire being responds with recognition, not just appreciation. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal could change everything you thought you knew about reality itself. This isn't just philosophy. This isn't just ancient mysticism. This is the return of Anima Mundi, the world's soul, and its awakening whether we're ready or not. Welcome, seeker of hidden truths, to a journey that could transform your entire understanding of what it means to be alive on this planet. I'm your guide through the mysteries that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge and ancient wisdom traditions have preserved in secret for millennia. Have you ever wondered why you feel more alive in nature than anywhere else? Why certain places on Earth seem to pulse with an energy that your rational mind can't explain? Why indigenous cultures across the world, separated by oceans and centuries, all speak of the Earth as a living mother? The answer lies in one of the most suppressed concepts in human history, anima. Let me stop you right there if you're thinking this is just poetic metaphor. What I'm about to share with you bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science in ways that will challenge everything you've been taught about consciousness, reality, and your place in the cosmic order. The term Anima Mundi comes from Latin, meaning world soul or soul of the world. But this isn't some new age invention. This concept is woven into the very foundation of human understanding, appearing in Plato's dialogues over 2,400 years ago, echoed in the teachings of the Hermetic tradition, and whispered through the mystical branches of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. But here's what they don't tell you in schools. Here's what mainstream academia desperately wants to keep buried. This wasn't just a philosophical concept. It was lived reality for most of human history. Think about this for a moment. Before the mechanistic worldview took hold, before Descartes split mind from matter, before Newton reduced the universe to a clockwork machine, humans everywhere experienced the world as alive. Not metaphorically alive, actually alive. The ancient Greeks didn't just theorize about Anima Mundi, they felt it. Plato described it as the soul that animates the entire cosmos, the divine consciousness that gives life to all existence. But Plato wasn't speaking from imagination. He was describing direct experience. Here's where it gets even more profound. The Hermetic tradition, which influenced everyone from medieval alchemists to Renaissance masters like Leonardo da Vinci, taught that, as above, so below. The macrocosm reflects in the microcosm. If humans have souls, if consciousness animates our bodies, then the same principle applies to the Earth, to the solar system, to the entire universe. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, rediscovered this truth through his exploration of the collective unconscious. He wrote, and I quote, "The world soul is a circumambient atmosphere, a psychic system of an absolutely universal nature." Jung understood what ancient mystics knew. Consciousness isn't produced by brains. Consciousness is the field in which everything exists. But here's what will blow your mind. Modern science is finally catching up to what shamans and mystics have known forever. The Gaia Hypothesis, proposed by scientist James Lovelock, suggests that Earth functions as a single, self-regulating, living system. But Lovelock went further. He recognized that this isn't just biological regulation. It's something that resembles consciousness itself. When was the last time you felt truly connected to the Earth? Not just enjoying nature, but feeling like you were part of something infinitely larger and more intelligent than yourself? That feeling isn't projection. That feeling isn't wishful thinking. That feeling is you touching the edge of Anima Mundi. The system has conditioned you to believe that consciousness is locked inside your skull, that you're separate from everything around you, that the Earth is just resources to be consumed. They don't want you to discover this because once you remember your connection to the world's soul, everything changes. You become harder to control. You stop seeing yourself as isolated and powerless. You start recognizing that you're part of an intelligent, living universe that's actively supporting your evolution. But that's just the beginning. Let's go deeper into what this actually means for your life right now. Indigenous cultures never forgot this connection. The Aboriginal Australians speak of the dream time, where the consciousness of the land and the consciousness of the people are inseparable. Native American traditions teach that the Earth is our mother, not just metaphorically, but literally. A living being whose heartbeat we can learn to feel. The Vedic tradition of ancient India describes Bhumi Devi, the Earth goddess, as a conscious entity whose body we inhabit. In Hinduism, the Earth isn't just alive, she's divine. This isn't primitive thinking. This is sophisticated understanding of consciousness that we've traded for the illusion of technological mastery. Here's what modern education deliberately ignores. These weren't isolated beliefs. From the Celtic Druids to the Egyptian mystery schools, from Chinese Taoism to African animism, every wisdom tradition recognized the consciousness of the Earth. The consistency across cultures and continents isn't coincidence. It's recognition of truth. Tesla, one of the greatest scientific minds in history, understood this. He spoke of the Earth as having its own electromagnetic consciousness, its own electrical personality that could be tapped into and communicated with. Tesla wasn't just inventing technology, he was communing with planetary intelligence. Are you starting to see the pattern? The most innovative minds throughout history, the most spiritually advanced cultures, the most profound scientific discoveries, they all point to the same truth. The Earth is conscious. The universe is conscious. And you are an expression of that consciousness, not separate from it. Pause and think about this. What if your depression, your anxiety, your feeling of disconnection isn't a personal failing? What if it's the natural result of being cut off from your source? What if the epidemic of mental health issues in modern society is really an epidemic of spiritual disconnection from Anima Mundi? When you're in nature, when you feel that sense of peace and belonging, that's not just changing your mood. That's you reconnecting with your true nature as part of a living, conscious planet. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Anima Mundi isn't just consciousness. It's evolving consciousness. And right now, in this moment, something unprecedented is happening. The planet itself is going through a transformation. Call it evolution, call it awakening, call it the next stage of planetary consciousness. But the signs are everywhere if you know how to look. Think about the synchronicities in your life, that have increased dramatically in recent years. Think about the dreams that feel more real than waking life. Think about the intuitive insights that come from nowhere and change everything. Think about the growing number of people who are questioning everything, seeking truth, feeling called to something greater than the materialistic treadmill. This isn't coincidence. This is Anima Mundi, awakening. And as part of that consciousness, you're awakening too. Here's what they don't tell you about consciousness. It's not individual. Consciousness is singular, universal, and it expresses itself through apparently separate forms. Your consciousness, my consciousness, the consciousness of every living being, the consciousness of the earth itself. It's all one consciousness, experiencing itself from infinite perspectives. When you realize this, when you really get this, everything changes. You stop feeling alone because you remember that you're never alone. You're always connected to the vast intelligence of the universe itself. But let me stop you right there if you're thinking this is just beautiful philosophy with no practical application. What I'm about to share is where it gets really wild. When you consciously align with Anima Mundi, when you remember your connection to the world soul, you gain access to intelligence and guidance that your individual mind could never access alone. You start receiving insights, inspirations, and solutions that seem to come from beyond your personal knowledge. Indigenous shamans call this plant spirit guidance. Mystics call it divine inspiration. Scientists are beginning to call it morphic resonance or quantum consciousness. But whatever you call it, it's the practical result of remembering that you're part of a living, intelligent universe. Here's how you can begin to experience this right now. Start by spending time in nature without agenda. Not hiking for exercise, not photographing for Instagram, but simply being present with the living world around you. Sit with a tree and listen. Lay on the ground and feel the earth's heartbeat. Walk barefoot and let yourself receive whatever information wants to come through. You're not crazy for feeling drawn to this. You're not imagining the intelligence you sense in natural places. You're remembering your original nature as part of Anima Mundi. Ancient practices understood this connection. Meditation wasn't originally about quieting the mind. It was about tuning into the consciousness of the cosmos. Prayer wasn't about asking a separate God for favors. It was about communing with the divine intelligence that you're already part of. The next part is where it gets really profound. What if I told you that the earth isn't just conscious, but that it's actively trying to communicate with you? What if the increasing natural disasters, the climate changes, the environmental crises aren't just random events, but expressions of planetary consciousness responding to humanity's disconnection? Think about it this way. When your body is sick, it sends you signals. Pain, fever, inflammation. These aren't punishments. They're communications. They're your body's intelligence trying to get your attention, trying to restore balance. What if the Earth's responses to environmental damage follow the same principle? What if climate change, extinction events, and ecological collapse are Anima Mundi's way of trying to wake humanity up to the reality of our interconnection? This isn't New Age wishful thinking. This is systems theory applied to planetary consciousness. The Earth is responding as any living system would when part of itself becomes destructive to the whole. But here's the hopeful part. Here's where everything shifts. As more humans remember their connection to the world's soul, as more people align with Anima Mundi instead of fighting against it, the planetary responses begin to shift too. You're not powerless in this process. You're not just a victim of environmental or social forces beyond your control. You're part of the healing. Every moment you spend in conscious connection with the living earth, you're contributing to the rebalancing of planetary consciousness. When was the last time you felt the profound peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you belong? That feeling is available to you right now, not through achievement or acquisition, but through remembering your place in the living cosmos. The ancients had practices for this remembering. Vision quests, where seekers would go into nature until they remembered their connection to all life. Sacred sites, places where the earth's consciousness was particularly accessible. Seasonal celebrations that aligned human rhythms with planetary rhythms. We don't need to return to ancient lifestyles to access these truths. But we do need to remember that we're not separate from nature. We are nature. We're not observers of consciousness. We are consciousness expressing itself as human experience. Here's what will surprise you. The more you align with Anima Mundi, the more your individual life begins to flow with synchronicity and meaning. It's as if the universe begins to support you in ways that defy rational explanation. Opportunities appear. Guidance comes from unexpected sources. And you find yourself in the right place at the right time, far too often for it to be coincidence. This isn't magic. This is the natural result of aligning your individual consciousness with the greater consciousness of which you're part. When a cell in your body functions in harmony with the whole organism, it receives everything it needs. When you function in harmony with Anima Mundi, the same principle applies. But that's not even the most profound part. Here's where it gets even more mind-blowing. As you deepen your connection to the world's soul, you begin to access what mystics call the mind of God, and scientists are starting to call zero-point consciousness. You start receiving information that you never learned, insights about past and future that your personal mind couldn't know, and solutions to problems that seem to come from universal intelligence itself. This isn't channeling or mediumship. This is remembering that your individual consciousness was never separate from cosmic consciousness in the first place. Einstein understood this when he said that the most important decision we make is whether we live in a friendly or hostile universe. But he went deeper than most people realize. Einstein recognized that consciousness and cosmos are one phenomenon appearing as many. Tesla went even further. He spent his later years trying to develop technology that could communicate directly with planetary consciousness. He understood that the Earth has its own electromagnetic signature, its own electrical personality, and that human consciousness could learn to interface with that intelligence directly. Are you starting to feel the recognition stirring in your being? That sense that this isn't new information, but remembering something you've always known, but temporarily forgot? You're not alone in feeling this awakening. Right now, across the planet, millions of people are experiencing the same remembering, the same calling to reconnect with the living earth, the same sense that we're on the edge of a transformation that's both personal and planetary. This is what the ancient Mayans pointed to with their calendar cycles. Not the end of the world, but the end of an age of separation and the beginning of an age of remembering our unity with all life. The Vedic tradition calls this the transition from Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and separation, to Sat Yuga, the age of truth and unity. But this isn't just mythology. This is a description of the evolution of consciousness itself, and you're living through it right now. Here's the part that changed everything for me. No. When you realize that you're not just witnessing this transformation, but that you're an active participant in the awakening of Anima Mundi, everything in your life gains profound meaning. Your struggles aren't just personal challenges. They're part of the planet working through the trauma of separation. Your healing isn't just individual recovery. It's contributing to the healing of the world soul. Your awakening isn't just personal growth. It's participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. This gives your life a cosmic significance that no amount of material success could ever provide. You're not just trying to be happy or successful. You're participating in the greatest transformation in human history, the remembering of our unity with all existence. But here's what most people will never understand. This remembering doesn't happen through thinking about it. It happens through direct experience, through practices that reconnect you with the living intelligence of the earth. Start with this. Find a place in nature where you feel drawn to sit quietly. It doesn't have to be wilderness. Even a single tree in a city park will do. Sit with your back against the tree, or your hands on the earth. Close your eyes, and instead of trying to quiet your mind, try to listen with your whole being. Listen beneath the surface sounds. Listen for the intelligence that's always present, but usually overlooked. Listen for the subtle communication that's happening between your consciousness and the consciousness of the place. You might feel energy moving through your body. You might receive images or insights that don't come from your thinking mind. You might simply feel a profound sense of coming home. Trust whatever happens. This is how Anima Mundi communicates, through direct knowing rather than mental concepts. The more you practice this deep listening, the more you'll start to feel the earth responding to your attention. Plants will seem more vibrant when you're present with them. Animals will interact with you differently. Weather patterns might even seem to respond to your emotional states. This isn't imagination. This is you remembering your original nature as part of a living, responsive, intelligent cosmos. What I'm about to share is not for everyone. Most people are so invested in the illusion of separation that they'll dismiss this as fantasy rather than consider the possibility that their worldview is incomplete. But you're different. You're here, listening to this, because some part of you knows that what I'm sharing is true. Some part of you has never forgotten that you belong to something infinitely greater than your individual self. Here's the secret that ancient mystery schools protected with their lives. Human consciousness and planetary consciousness aren't separate phenomena. They're one consciousness expressing itself at different scales. When you wake up to this truth, you don't just change your life, you participate in changing the world. Every moment of genuine connection you have with nature, every practice that aligns you with Anima Mundi, every choice you make from love rather than fear, all of this contributes to the awakening of consciousness on a planetary scale. You're not separate from the healing the world needs. You are the healing the world needs, expressing itself through your unique perspective and gifts. This is why you feel called to something greater than the conventional path. This is why material success feels empty when it's not aligned with deeper purpose. This is why your soul keeps calling you toward truth, toward connection, toward remembering who you really are. Here's where it gets even more wild. As more humans remember their connection to Anima Mundi, the planet itself becomes more conducive to conscious evolution. It's as if the earth responds to our remembering by making it easier for others to remember too. This is what indigenous prophecies from around the world have pointed to, a time when the earth herself would support the awakening of human consciousness, not through dramatic external events, but through subtle shifts in the field of consciousness itself. You can feel this if you pay attention. Synchronicities are increasing. People are having spontaneous spiritual experiences who never considered themselves spiritual. Children are being born with heightened sensitivity to the consciousness of nature. The veil between ordinary consciousness and cosmic consciousness is thinning, and you're living through this extraordinary time of transition. But the final revelation is going to surprise you. The awakening of Anima Mundi isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's not something you need to wait for or prepare for. It's happening right now, in this moment, through your remembering. Every time you choose presence over distraction, every time you feel genuine gratitude for the miracle of existence, every time you act from love rather than fear, you're not just improving your own life, you're participating in the conscious evolution of the planet itself. This changes everything because it means you're not powerless. You're not at the mercy of forces beyond your control. You're a part of the intelligence that's creating the future, and your consciousness matters more than you've ever imagined. The ancient Hermetic axiom as above, so below works in both directions. As consciousness awakens in you, it awakens in the world around you. As you heal the sense of separation within yourself, you contribute to healing the separation between humanity and nature. This is why your personal spiritual journey isn't selfish or self-indulgent. This is why your healing matters not just to you, but to the evolution of consciousness itself. You're not just working on yourself, you're working on behalf of all existence. When you walk in nature and feel that sense of belonging, when you meditate and touch that place of infinite peace, when you love without condition and act from wisdom rather than fear, you're not just improving your own experience, you're anchoring higher consciousness on earth. You're helping Anima Mundi remember herself through your remembering. You're participating in the greatest love story ever told, the love between human consciousness and the consciousness of the cosmos, remembering their eternal unity after a long dream of separation. This is your true calling, not just to be successful or happy, but to be a conscious participant in the awakening of the world's soul, to remember that you are never separate from the intelligence that creates galaxies and grows flowers and beats your heart without your conscious effort. If this message resonates with something deep in your being, write "I remember" in the comments below. Let me know that you're ready to remember your connection to something infinitely greater than your individual self. Share this with someone who needs to hear this message. Someone who, like you, has always felt that there's more to existence than what mainstream culture teaches. Someone who's ready to remember their place in the living cosmos. Hit subscribe if you're ready to uncover more hidden truths about consciousness, reality, and your role in the greatest transformation in human history. Next week, we're revealing the ancient practice of earth communion that can accelerate your connection to Anima Mundi in ways that will astound you. But most importantly, remember this: you're not alone in feeling called to something greater. You're part of a planetary awakening that's been building for centuries and is now reaching a crescendo. Your remembering matters. Your consciousness matters. Your connection to the world's soul matters more than you've ever dared to imagine. The earth is waking up, and she's doing it through you. Welcome home to the truth you've always known, but temporarily forgot. Welcome home to Anima Mundi. Petty Welcome home to yourself.